In Andor, there are 7 monologues that stand out. I've ranked them, but not in the way you think. From the first spark of resistance to the moment the idea itself takes hold. In this list, each voice takes you one step deeper and uncovers another layer in the fight for freedom. By the end, you'll see the entire rebellion told through 7 people, and only their words.
If I died tonight, was it worth it?
In the opening scene of Season 2, we find Cassian speaking with a nervous young woman who's decided to take on the Empire. You can feel her hesitation, the doubt and the second guessing, and at the same time you can also sense that Cassian has changed.
This makes it worth it. Right now. Being with you, being here at the moment you step into the circle.
The moment has no music. You can only hear the low howling wind, making the conversation feel both isolated and fragile. It's as if the world itself is holding its breath while they decide what kind of people they're going to be.
You made this decision long ago. The Empire cannot win.
That's a leader's speech. That's a leadership speech. That's a speech that he could never have given in the first season.
A year ago, at the end of Season 1, we saw Cassian broken, ready to die. Now he has become something else. Someone who inspires others to take the same step he once did. It's a perfect reflection of the speech Luthen once gave him back in episode 4 of the first season.
I imagine that no matter what you tell me or tell yourself, you'll ultimately die fighting these bastards.
You'll never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them.
That speech is maybe not the first time that he's given it, that there's a history of what's happened over the past year. I want you to feel his experience over the past year without ever getting specific about it.
Like Tony Gilroy is saying, through the monologue you can imagine everything Cassian has been through since we left him. Every mission, every scar, every time he's listened to Nemik's manifesto, reaching to this point where he can finally be the one to give the encouraging words instead of needing them himself.
You've become more than your fear. Let that protect you.
This moment symbolizes how the rebellion begins for everyone, with doubt, emotions, and the everlasting question of, will it be worth it?
What does she say? The line in there that she says in there that was such a key for me. Oh, she says, I've been happy here.
I've had fun here.
She's really human. She's really sacrificing. She's never going to be back in this place again.
I was a prisoner. No droids, no beasts, just men and cargo.
Saw Gerrera has always been seen as this madman of a character, the brutal but arguably needed perspective of the rebellion. And while this monologue absolutely leans into that side, it also digs into the past and the harsh lives some people were forced to live.
Just dropped where they stood. When we came back, the next day there'd be nothing but a bone or two where they were down.
It's such a strange scene, with the pouring rain, the rhino drug, layers of backstory and pain. When you think about it, this moment shouldn't work. It's so confusing, but it does thanks to the character of Willman. His entire arc is kind of a hidden gem in the show, something people never really mention. It's such a simple, powerful look at how someone from a forgotten corner of the galaxy gets pulled into the rebellion. We see his life on Ferrix, we see him lose his father, we see this anger grow, we see him find love, we see him join Luthen's operation, and finally we see this.
Remember this. Remember this moment. This perfect night.
It's the meeting of two worlds, the veteran who's become the war and the boy who's about to become its next soldier. Saw Gerrera essentially presents Willman with a choice here. Are you part of the rebellion just until something better comes along, or are you in it for real?
Where are you, boy? You're here. You're not with Luthen, you're here. You're right here, and you're ready to fight.
The music, the atmosphere, Forrest Whitaker's performance, it's all just very well executed, but it also presents one of the more tragic point of views in this entire list, because it shows how, for some people like Saw, once you dedicate yourself to the revolution, once you become a necessary crazy, you might never find your way back to normal.
Calm. Kindness, kinship, love. If he doesn't have empathy, then he has got nothing to do in the revolution, because the reason for revolution is empathy.
Just like Saw Gerrera pinpoints what you must sacrifice for the cause in a very dramatic fashion, Luthen Rael does the same, only this one goes quite a bit deeper.
I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space.
There's nothing else but the revolution for him. Everything he says to Young at that elevator is true.
I share my dreams with ghosts.
When this episode first aired, this monologue hooked me instantly. Part of it was the mystery of Luthen's words, that sense of a man hiding something significant, but most of it came from Stellan Skarsgård's performance in the way he didn't just say the words, he carried the weight of an entire lifetime behind them. And the writing here is just brilliant. One example is that one line, "I share my dreams with ghosts," and how it comes full circle in the season 1 finale when Luthen stands at Maarva's funeral listening to her message.
There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy.
In that moment, he's literally sharing his dreams with a ghost. You can see it in his eyes, how much he's enjoying the striking words coming from the hologram. Back then, at the end of season 1, I don't think anyone could have possibly realized how much these words from Luthen would grow with the characters. Because by the time we reach the end of the series, it's no longer just about Luthen's story. It's about Lonnie, it's about the Axis operation, it's about the rebellion, but most importantly, it's about Kleya. When he says,
I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do.
we now understand those words differently. As much as they echo his own decision of beginning this revolution, it's as much about the moment he decides to mentor this lost, angry, vengeful child, knowing exactly what path she'll be forced to walk.
I'm only afraid of what I'm doing to you.
I know what I want.
For all that Luthen reveals about the undeniable ugly side of revolution, this speech also reminds us that he is still human. He's no Jedi, no chosen hero, no one blessed with mystical powers. Just a man who saw the toxic nature of the Empire and chose to act. A man who found a kid and decided to take her in. A man who knew he probably wouldn't survive this fight, but maybe, just maybe, she could.
I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
This monologue is the foundation of what it takes to make an orchestrated uprising work. It shows that the rebellion isn't built only on explosives and a loud message. You need to have a plan, a strategy, and by sticking to it you will have to sacrifice much of your life, if not all you have. And the way Tony Gilroy ties that to this strange, haunting relationship between Luthen and Kleya is phenomenal, beautiful, and devastating all at once.
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
It has to be you. Come on, Kino. You do this every day. Tell them what to do.
The monologue by Kino Loy in the prison arc is arguably the most emotional moment out of all the examples I will show you today. However, it lands here in the middle of the list because it represents the turning of one man's heart, not yet the whole rebellion, ending with that heartbreaking revelation: he can't swim. But before we get to why this dialogue is so brilliant, let's hear from the actor behind the character, Andy Serkis, and his perspective on Kino Loy.
As soon as he goes into prison, I think he loses touch with himself and becomes very hardened very quickly and just wants to keep his head down.
I said that's enough.
So that's why I wanted to make him as sort of bullish and really kind of unsympathetic early on.
This whole 3-episode story was about this lost, imprisoned man finding himself again, and that's ultimately what this speech is showing you. Kino searching for the right words, slowly realizing that his real self had been buried by the harsh environment of Narkina 5.
We have deactivated every floor in the facility. All the floors are cold.
Right here, this man would have died if Kino hadn't told the truth. It's a small but deeply meaningful moment, the first brave step towards the larger goal of freedom, and it captures the very essence of this entire monologue. It's like a ripple effect. Cassian inspires Kino, who then finds the courage to speak from his heart, and that honesty becomes the spark that ignites something much bigger.
There is one way out. Right now. The building is ours.
It all felt very grounded and real, and it didn't feel like a speech. It felt like an in-the-moment kind of exploration of finding yourself.
One way out.
Honestly, I would have been totally fine if Kino had just jumped in the water with Cassian and Melshi. But looking back, the fact that he can't swim, it hits so much harder than just being a gut punch for the audience. I think it's one of the clearest examples in all of Star Wars of why the Empire was always doomed to fall. Think about it for a second. What's the Empire's biggest flaw? Sure, they're evil and oppressive and all of that, but this entire prison arc nails something deeper. It nails the Empire's obsession with total control, with stripping people of individuality, emotion, and connection. And that's what makes Kino's moment so meaningful. After everything, he finally rediscovers his purpose. He starts caring about others again. In that instant, he can't go back to being the hollow version of himself that the Empire created. Even if for a split second the adrenaline and Cassian's encouragement makes him forget that he can't actually swim, it doesn't matter, because at that point he's already free. He's found something just as important. He's found himself.
We sort of settled into this area of is almost coming to terms with it.
And when people make that choice to rediscover their humanity through helping others, the Empire can't win. And the next 3 monologues only drive that truth further. Without the audience realizing it, the entire first season had been building towards this moment. Every conversation with Maarva served to highlight her presence on Ferrix, what she meant to the community and how deeply she inspired those around her. Just as Kino Loy's monologue reflects an internal awakening, this scene shifts that focus outward. And here, like Diego Luna explains it, the focus is on the reaction from everyone else.
It's very inspiring. It's beautiful to see Andy, but it's also beautiful to see the reaction, you know? Beautiful to see the faces of all these people finding hope and realizing and understanding and moving forward. And this series is about that. It's about the reaction. It's about the people. It's about a revolution, you know?
And I yearn to lift you. Not because I want to shine or even be remembered. It's because I want you to go on.
One last time, Maarva makes everyone remember what they stand for, what Ferrix stands for, and ultimately what the Empire would have to stand against.
But we were sleeping. I've been sleeping. And I've been turning away from a truth I wanted not to face. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. It is never more alive than when we sleep.
If these stormtroopers, generals and other Imperial personnel would have listened to this speech, if they actually would have understood the message, they would probably have been more scared. But that's the entire point. They're so naive, so incompetent to figure out freedom, fathom the cause of this revolution, that they simply miss the rebellion unfolding right before their eyes. It isn't until Maarva utters the words,
"Fighting these bastards,"
that we get a reaction, but then it's already too late. What many overlook arc, and what this monologue really shows you is that we experience the birth of the rebellion through Cassian's eyes, yet the true rebel with a cause is Maarva. Our main character may be the spark that ignites the flame, but she is the flare that signals the war. It's always been Andor's story, though at least in season 1 it feels more about the mother of the rebellion than the rogue son. How her persistent nature made Cassian and Ferrix as a whole believe again. And there is something beautifully symbolic about Brasso using Maarva's stone in the final fight, as if she gets the last word even after death.
Fellow senators, friends, colleagues, allies, adversaries.
I would contend that her performance in the show is the most elaborate and complicated, and her character has the most tortured experience in the show because everything that she does is observed.
Everyone has their own rebellion, and as Tony Gilroy notes in this interview, Mon Mothma's may be the most difficult to comprehend. The way she gets tortured psychologically, trapped by everyone around her, even her family, was such a hard watch. However, just as season 1 built towards Maarva's speech, this moment becomes the culmination of all her quiet suffering. It's the first time the true Mon Mothma steps forward, finally visible to the world.
With that speech, we get to the Mon that I'm deeply interested in, which is the emergence of a leader.
I stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in crisis. The distance between what is said, shut it down, and what is known to be true has become an abyss.
This is the point in time when the galaxy begins to understand that the rebellion is real. And it's not just Mon. Even the smallest moments reflect that awakening. Take the bit with the 2 technicians. Just as the speech becomes the heart of this specific scene, that simple act of keeping the door shut carries its own quiet power. A little gesture that proves every act of revolution matters.
You need the sequence key.
So let's have it.
We took it up to the security office yesterday.
To stand and give the whole speech, that is something that I will remember forever.
The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil.
What's important to remember and central to Mon Mothma's story is that she doesn't do this because she's fearless or because she sees herself as a hero. She acts because she's felt too much, because the weight of what she's had to keep inside of her has become unbearable. In the face of pain, Mon Mothma summons the courage and resolve that we all need, the kind that reminds us to rise up and resist the monsters coming for us all.
The monster who will come for us all soon enough is Emperor Palpatine.
She's just, man, I think her performance is central, you know, as central as Diego's to the show.
The fact that this moment has turned into an Emmy-winning monologue says everything about just how good it is. Every line lands with weight and purpose, and when you really think about it, this might be one of the most courageous acts in the entire history of the rebellion. Still, it doesn't quite take the final spot. Not because Mon Mothma's speech isn't great, but because what comes next just has to stand on its own. You'll see what I mean, so let's stop dancing around it and dive right in.
There's a growing list of things we've known and forgotten, things they've pushed us to forget. Things like freedom.
In episode 5, called The Axe Forgets, we get this conversation with Cassian, Skeen, and the character of Karis Nemik. It begins as a discussion on the current state of the galaxy, but then Skeen says this.
He's writing a manifesto. Did he tell you?
Back then, I didn't really think much of it. Yet by the end of the Aldhani arc, I couldn't stop thinking about Nemik. Partly because of his tragic death, but also because how unique he was. There was something different about him. This mix of idealism and a quiet strength. And more than anything, it was his clarity. His absolute belief in why the Empire could never last.
It's easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident. But they have a fight on their hands, don't they?
The Empire has no moral boundaries. Why should we not take hold of every chance we can? Let them see how an insurgency adapts.
I'm getting to talk about so many important things in a really vivid, exciting, anxious story.
But like I said, Nemik died, so I figured that was it. His story was over, except it wasn't. Turns out that was just the beginning.
Tyranny required.
In the most non-dramatic, totally casual way, the voice of Nemik stays with Cassian in the form of his manifesto. It surfaces subtly throughout Season 1, serving as a quiet reminder until it takes center stage in the season's closing episode.
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy.
Finally, we get to hear what Nemik so passionately teased, and it resonated on a level I never thought mere words could achieve.
Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause.
He talked about freedom, revolution, and the idea of the Empire's unnatural nature. And the reason it hit so hard, because his words perfectly echoed the story the show had been telling all along.
Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that.
And throughout the rest of the finale and Season 2, the clear vision of this freedom fighter only grew stronger. We began to see more and more examples of the assumed cruelty, the random sparks of courage and rebellion spreading across the galaxy until the Empire itself started to tremble.
The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege.
Give me your hand.
Remember this. Try.
I don't know if this was Tony Gilroy's intention, but I love that Nemik ends his monologue with "try." It's a direct contrast to Yoda's famous line, "Do or do not, there is no try." I love this because the normal people of the galaxy are not Jedi. They can't just channel the Force, they have to try. In the end, that's all you can do. And just as Andor serves as the grounded counterpart to the original trilogy, showing the other side of a revolution, this line does the same. And perhaps the best example of this difference is the scene right here.
Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere. And even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward.
Almost 5 years later, Nemik's words had made their way to the top of the food chain. So much so that even the ISB couldn't stop listening to it.
It's the mask of fear.
I'm assuming you've heard it before.
The highlight of the scene is how completely clueless the Imperials are. They see the rebellion as some kind of poison, a disease that they just can't contain. They have no idea why the words keep spreading, which leads to one of my favorite lines in the whole series from Partagas.
Who do you think it is?
It's so good and necessary, because it makes us see the original trilogy differently. It paints a perspective where Luke didn't save the galaxy all on his own, rather that he was the final push. By the time of episode 4, this moment shows that the Empire was already cracking under the weight of a galaxy-wide rebellion. Luke's actions only worked because so many others had already been fighting, and that's ultimately what the story and these 7 monologues in Andor have told us.
The rebellion isn't here anymore. It's flown away. It's everywhere now.
It's about understanding the complexity, the amount of love, loss, commitment, and passion behind change. And I think it reminds us how lucky we are if we are capable of having that in our lives.